Welcome in, welcome all. This is your host, Victoria James, and this is Just a Girl with a Voice. Thank you all for tuning in this week. So, today we are going to talk about something that probably is a little bit more relatable to the mass, and it's knowing when to walk away. Now, when I say walk away, it could be a relationship, a friendship, um, a situationship, anything that's bad for you, right? So I'm gonna tell you guys a story. Um, when I want to say this happened when I was, I had to be like 6 or 7, or maybe even 8. Um, every day at recess, we would go outside, and I used to hate recess because there was this one little Caucasian boy in particular that um, would come and shove me against this chain link fence every single day, like clockwork. Well, my feelings were hurt, and I did end up telling like my parents, and I think I did tell the teacher, but nobody did anything. So one day we were outside for recess, and he thought we were going to go back to scheduled programming, and he was going to go back to shoving me against that fence. And I don't know what happened. I can't explain it, but I just snapped. I snapped, and next thing you know, I reached around and scratched his back up. And I guess the boy, it was like so deep that he had to get stitches. And his mom was livid. I think she even tried to say she was going to take legal action or whatever, but your kid was a bully, ma'am. And he knew that there was a very strong consequence that, you know, he wouldn't be able to bully no more because he was going to get knocked out. But nonetheless, I don't promote violence. What I'm saying is, I stuck around longer than I should have, and I allowed the behavior to continue before having that visceral reaction. While, yes, I did tell my parents or whatever, instead of just staying silent while he pushed me over and over again against that chain link fence, maybe I should have spoke up and said, hey, I don't like that. Stop doing that. You know? We have to know our thresholds, and when it comes to others, we have to know like how much and what we're going to deal with and tolerate. And it's sad that it even has to be that way, but these days people you give them an inch and they'll take a mile. So it's all about setting those boundaries up front so that on the back end you don't have to do much explaining. So if the relationship, friendship, or situationship, if it becomes a constant source of stress and struggle and it's no longer serving you, it's time to go. And here are some signs that it is. Okay, so you have your lack of emotional connection. You no longer feel a sense of intimacy or vulnerability or a connection with your partner. It can indicate a weakening bond. Next, you have the communication breakdown. So, when your communication is strained, conflict is unavoidable. You feel either unheard or misunderstood, and it could be a sign that the relationship is struggling. There's a lack of effort. So, if one or both partners is not making the effort to nurture the relationship or address the issues, it can signal a decline in commitment. You have differing goals. So, what that means is if you and your partner have, vastly different life goals or aspirations, it could be difficult to maintain a long term relationship. There's a lack of trust. If you no longer trust your partner or feel they are being dishonest, it can severely damage the foundation of the relationship. There's abuse or harmful behavior. If you're experiencing any form of abuse, it's time to go for your own safety and well being. There's constant conflict, constantly fighting and unable to resolve conflicts constructively can be a sign that a relationship is unhealthy. There's no desire for the future. If you can't imagine a future with your partner, or you're feeling increasingly pessimistic about the relationship's long term prospects, it may be time to consider ending it. There's a lack of individuality. You feel like you've lost your sense of self or who you are. You're compromising your values and goals for the sake of the relationship. It's time to go. So, those are some of the telltale signs. If you're experiencing any of those, it may be worth taking a look into the relationships that you're cultivating. Here are some things to consider, though, when you're making that decision: your individual needs. So it's important to consider what your needs are in a relationship and whether they are being met. Communication, is it open, honest? Because that's a crucial thing in a relationship. If that's not happening, no, you need to get out of there. Trust your gut, trust your instinct. If you have a strong feeling that something isn't right, it's important to listen. Do not ignore those red flags, because that's how we get ourselves in situations. So those are a few ways that you can kind of check and make sure that you're on the right track with your relationships. But also too, we have to understand there is power in silence when you're exiting the situation. You can still love a person, and it can be difficult, but sometimes it's a necessary step for personal growth and well-being. It's important to prioritize your own needs and create space for healing and self-discovery. And while silence may be a way to protect yourself emotionally, consider the potential impacts on the other person. Sometimes it's what's best, guys. You don't have to be vocal, and I had to learn this, and I'm still learning it sometimes. You want to over explain, and you want to tell that person how they hurt you. 9 times out of 10, the person already knows how they hurt you, in what way, and how it affected you. Spoiler alert. So you sending that paragraph and you telling them, you really messed me up. And do you honestly think that that person's going to stop and care about you in that moment? I mean, honestly. Some people don't go into it with having ill intentions, but it turns out to be that way because maybe somewhere along in the relationship they realize that it's not necessarily what they wanted, or it's not what they were looking for. And instead of communicating that effectively and saving a lot of heartache, they tend to lead you on and or ghost you or pull back their energy, and you're stuck looking confused, like, well, what happened? Everything was so good. But there's power in not over explaining yourself. You have to recognize the need for change first. You have to understand that a silent exit might be necessary if the relationship is causing you significant emotional harm, or if there are fundamental differences that cannot be resolved. Plan your actions in your head, guys. Decide how, when, and where you will take your leave. This might involve removing yourself from the relationship physically, emotionally, and mentally. Again, you don't have to voice this to the other person. They don't have to know what your left hand or right hand is doing. Okay? Set boundaries and expectations. Clearly define your boundaries and for the future so you can stick to them. Avoid contact or communication that could pull you back into the old pattern. Allow yourself to feel. It's important to acknowledge and process your emotions. Allow yourself to feel the sadness, the anger, or the confusion that may arise from walking away, because you are going to deal with these emotions. It's kind of like going to a program like AA or something, when you have to admit that you have a problem, because relationships can be an addiction to people. It's not just drugs, alcohol. You can have those unhealthy ties, and you go through those experiences like anybody would when they're trying to kick an addiction. You go through the withdrawals. The withdrawals could be you falling back into texting them those paragraphs, or even texting them after no contact. Hey, what you doing? I miss you. Or even sitting around daydreaming about them and the good times, because while there were some good times, and that's okay, there were good times, but did the good times outweigh the bad times? See, I think it has to be like a checkpoint. Like you have to be able to put those things side by side and really think about it when you start to get those feelings of, oh, I miss them. Like, what are you missing though? Are you missing how they mistreated you? Are you missing how you could never have a decent conversation with them because they weren't trying to and they were being childish? Are you missing how they never put the effort in? They were very low effort. They didn't plan anything. It could be dates. It could be trips. It could be lunch dates, or for friends. It could be anything. What are you really missing about that person? What value did they bring to your life while they were around? I think those are the tough questions that we have to ask ourselves so that we can push ourselves forward. You know what I'm saying? So that we're not stuck looking at the past. So allow yourself to feel. It is important to acknowledge and process your emotions. Allow yourself to feel the sadness, the anger, and the confusion that may arise from walking away. Focus on your self-care. Prioritize your physical and emotional well-being. Engage in activities that nurture your mind, your body, and your spirit. And reflect on the relationship, because it's important to take time to reflect on what you learned from the relationship, the good and the bad, because it can help you gain a better understanding of yourself and your needs. And don't look back. Once you made your decision, avoid the temptation to revisit the relationship or the person. Focus on building a future that aligns with your values and desires. That's a big one. You can do that last step. It's going to be seamless for you to move forward in life. And once you finally do move forward, you'll realize that the thing that you were so hung up on, that there was something much better waiting for you on the other side. You just had to let that old thing go, Remember that healthy relationships involve open communication, respect, and mutual growth. If you're walking away, it's important to prioritize your needs and create space for a healthier future for yourself. Okay? Remember that. Okay, so I've got one more story for you guys concerning the topic. So this one's more relationship based. And this one, yeah. So in my past, there was this guy, right? And I really liked him. Really did. But I'm not sure that he really liked me. Now, from the jump, it was cool. He showed interest, and it was, it was nice. But then, as time went on, I started to feel him pulling his energy back. But instead of me just taking the hint, I stayed. I stayed around, and I just kind of let it take me through the motions. And it was bad. It was bad. It was me constantly texting, constantly questioning, how do you feel? Are you into me even? Like, why don't you plan dates? Why don't you do this? A whole lot of cat and mouse, except I was being the cat, and I I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Some women are comfortable chasing, um, but in reality, it's supposed to be the other way around. Because even in the Bible, it says, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing." It don't say she who finds a husband. It said, "He who finds a wife." The men are the hunters, right? The men are the ones that are supposed to be seeking you out, not the other way around. So if it starts to feel like you're putting in more effort, you know what I'm saying, and you're putting in more time and attention and affection, and you're just giving him everything you've got and leaving nothing for yourself, that is a big, big, big indicator that you need to get on. You need to go. Get your bags, pack your stuff, and turn around and leave. Because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. You're going to sit there in that situation. You're going to stay. And it's going to start eating away at everything that you've built up. Your confidence, your self-worth, your dignity. All of those things are going to take a hit. And you're going to look up in the mirror one day and you're not going to recognize yourself. And you're going to be mad. Because you're going to think, if you just left when you were supposed to leave, you would be much happier. Yeah, you might have went through a period of time where, you had the notion of wanting to text him because he hasn't reached out in a week and all that good stuff. But you would have been better for it, because at least you would have had your dignity. At least when you thought about it, you wouldn't have to go to that memory where it's like, oh, I just texted him yesterday a paragraph and, he left me on red, or, I made a fool of myself and I actually pulled up and, he kind of looked at me like I had 3 heads or whatnot, Sometimes we have to believe people and take what they do to us, their actions. We have to believe those. Not so much the words. Look at what they're doing. And let that be your way to judge how you moving forward. Because I promise you, a person's actions is going to reveal how they feel about you every single time.
Artlist.io.
And now we're reaching a segment I like to call inspiration. Okay, guys. So I have this website. It's called giofoolist.com. You want to check it out. They have some good quotes about the topic. Most of them are unknown sources, but I found a few of them that were pretty good. First one is, your journey is yours alone. Don't be afraid to walk away from what no longer serves your soul. The next one is, walking away from what no longer aligns with your values is a powerful declaration of self-respect. Y'all hang on to those. Those are very deep. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in with me each week that you do. I really appreciate it. And I am so excited about what's to come with the show. You guys, if you want to follow us on any of the social medias, Facebook, Just a Girl with a Voice 1, Instagram, Just a Girl with a Voice 1, or our YouTube, where we upload our shows weekly at Just a Girl with a Voice 1. Also, if you haven't, you can subscribe to Spotify, where we drop our episodes every Thursday at 2. And you'll be the first to know when it drops. If you guys have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can contact us at justagirlwithavoice1@gmail.com. That's justagirlwithavoice1@gmail.com. You guys have the best Thursday, okay? And enjoy your day on purpose. Until next time. Bye.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.